In the year of 2023, when I walked from Georgia to New Jersey on the Appalachian Trail, plants were my constant companions. They were the second most noticeable thing after the trail itself under my feet. Here, I document many of the plants that I observed along the way and how they fit in with their environment depending on the season, how far north they are, how high up, and the local microenvironment, which can be moist or dry or shaded or sunny, or among many other possibilities. For each plant, I provide a common name and a scientific name in the caption and the date of the observation and its mileage and elevation along the AT. And all this information makes the observation more scientifically useful to myself at a later time or to others watching this video. This chapter encompasses the first 70 miles of the AT from its start at Amicalola Falls State Park in Georgia to where the trail leaves Georgia and enters North Carolina. One of the things I'm interested in is native plants. So, native plants are plants that have been for a long time growing in North America, and they're really well integrated with the ecosystem and support a lot of wildlife and other plant life. On the other hand, you have your non-native plants, which were introduced recently from Eurasia, either intentionally or accidentally. Non-native plants are on a spectrum from those which are relatively benign and don't do much ecological damage to uh, some with moderate ecological impacts, all the way up to aggressive invasive plants, which can be very destructive to the local ecosystem. Invasive plants are poorly controlled by herbivores in the ecology, and they provide fewer benefits to the local ecology than native plants do. A pleasant surprise that was unexpected to me as I hiked the Appalachian Trail in Georgia was that there were hardly any invasive plants there. And I think this must be because there's wide swaths of wilderness on either side of the trail, as you can see in this photograph from Blood Mountain. There were signs of previous farming and logging and the raising of livestock, so it wasn't predominantly old growth forest. But for some reason, those activities did not result in there being a lot of invasive plants along this section of trail. My first observation is holly with its stiff, pointy evergreen leaves that discourage deer from eating them. Holly can grow with smooth-sided leaves, smooth-edged leaves, but if they're damaged by deer, then the next leaves that come in will be very pointy, discouraging more deer foraging. In the early spring, holly and other evergreens are able to perform photosynthesis in the light that reaches the ground through the bare trees whose leaves have yet to come in. Fungus is a very common sight along the Appalachian Trail. Fungi are not plants, but they share many attributes with them, and I include them among my observations. It prefers moist environments. It can't do photosynthesis itself, so it gets nutrients from wood by extending its root-like hyphae into dead wood. And uh, when the wood breaks down, the fungus only uses a small fraction of the energy that's stored in the wood, and the rest of it is returned to the forest floor. Another evergreen seen along the Appalachian Trail is the eastern hemlock with its feathery leaves. It's a wonderful tree. It creates a very dark understory, uh, kind of a very, it has a very soft, feathery, uh, classic appearance. And unfortunately, this species is under threat from the woolly adelgid, which is a invasive bug that uh, punctures its sap vessels and draws sap from the twigs, and then it creates these little cocoons, these white fuzz balls, and but that's not what's on this one that I'm observing here. This one has some lichens uh, appearing on the twigs, and these lichens actually kind of look like the woolly adelgid cocoons. And iNaturalist, the program that I use to identify things, misidentified these lichens as woolly adelgid. Speaking of iNaturalist, I don't know what all these plants are by heart. I use this app called iNaturalist to identify them. It's a free app, and it will actually suggest identifications for you, which you can then accept or keep looking. And it's community based, so no worries if you make a misidentification. Someone in the community is going to correct you. Now, trees are difficult for me to identify even using iNaturalist because the the bark is very variable. The bark looks similar on different trees. So I really haven't identified many trees at all. But I wanted to include this tree because it has a very prominent scar on it, which I think may have been caused by a lightning strike, and the tree survived. This is a bloodroot, and it's got that name because its roots are kind of reddish if you dig them up, or orangish, and their sap is uh, toxic, which probably keeps them from being gobbled up by wildlife. And they're really quite a striking flower. And I was surprised to see flowers this early in the season when there can still be frosts at night. And what I learned by observation and then by reading is that there's a whole category of plants called spring ephemerals. And these are plants that uh, take advantage in terms of getting sunlight and photosynthesis of this period of a few weeks uh, early in the spring, after the really hard frosts are less likely to happen, but well before the leaves fill out on the trees, which allows them to capture energy from the sun during this unique window in time. The trunks of these bare trees are home to lichens, which are colonies of fungus and algae, or cyanobacteria, in a mutualistic relationship. The fungus provides a substrate for the algae or cyanobacteria, which undergo photosynthesis and provide the fungus with energy. They use the trees as a surface to grow on and do not rob them of energy. In the background, you can see, and foreground, you can see down trunks strewn about the forest floor. The southern Appalachians are misty at this time of year. The mist not only provides a mysterious beauty, it provides moisture to the moss and lichen that inhabit the tree trunks. In this part of the forest, young evergreens, probably pines, are sprouting up, coming up uh, in the understory. Um, who knows? Maybe the pines are gonna at some point make it to the canopy and change the hardwood forest into a coniferous forest. But right now, they can do a little photosynthesis during this season of bare hardwoods before the leaves come in, and then their growth would slow down quite a bit, which kind of brings to mind an advantage to hiking at this time of year, which is that with the leaves down on the hardwoods, you can see pretty good views between the trees, as you see in this photo. Well, here's the first yellow wildflower I observed on my hike. It's an Appalachian barren strawberry. And also in this picture, you can see some Christmas fern and you can see a bit of violet poking through. And here's the first blue wildflower I observed. It's the common blue violet, and it's a beautiful addition to the family of spring ephemerals. And here's me with my backpack, which on average weighs about 35 pounds when it's all loaded up with food and water. It's got everything I need to be comfortable and happy while hiking. Mosses are able to extract moisture from the misty air of the southern Appalachians. And they are indeed more common on the shady northern sides of the trees. This is a yellow wake robin. It's a trillium. This was one of the first trilliums that I saw while hiking, and it looked very strange and exotic to me with its three large mottled leaves and its peculiar flowers with three bracts and three petals. It turns out that there's actually many different kinds of trillium that one sees along the trail. They are actually not uncommon on the forest floor in the spring. We'll be seeing more of them. Now, here's what is called in the parlance of iNaturalist a twofer. That's two species prominently evident in a photograph. In this case, it's the bloodroot and the Christmas fern, which gets its name because it's an evergreen and it's green in December. Now, here's another twofer, bloodroot and Little Sweet Betsy. The Little Sweet Betsy is a little less prominent in the photo. But the purpose of this photo is to show the kind of local microenvironment that these plants prefer, and that's this kind of leaf litter, uh, broken up leaf litter, often around the trunks of trees, often around tree roots, where there's a lot of buildup of organic matter, providing rich, porous soil. Both plants primarily spread via rhizomes, that is, by shoots coming up from their roots, which results in them forming colonies, sometimes large colonies on the forest floor. The seeds of both plants are dispersed by ants. The outer layer of the seeds provides food for ants, which they take to their nest and gnaw off, and then they discard the inner seed around the nest where it can germinate. Little Sweet Betsy gets its name from its similarity to a larger shrub. And here's some more common blue violet. And also, there's some nice dead leaves on the forest floor here. And these can help you identify what kinds of trees there are around. For example, the one right under the violets is an oak leaf with its very sharp lobed leaves. To the left, there's another leaf, could be a tulip tree leaf. Then above, there's a leaf with rounded lobes that could also be an oak. A twofer of Sweet Little Betsy and the first appearance of Mayapple, which is a prevalent, widespread spring plant. I include multiple observations of some plants, as these provide information about the plant's range and their seasonal and environmental variation, and we will see more of Mayapple. I'm arrived late at the trail-famous mountain crossing hostel in Neal Gap, Georgia. At 30 miles in, Mountain Crossing Hostel provides gear shakedowns to help hikers get their gear sorted out after having tried it out for a few days. Many hikers send home burdensome gear from here and buy a few new lightweight options. My gear was in good shape, but they did help me greatly with suggestions for how to better adjust the straps suspending my pack load. Here is star chickweed, a beautiful, delicate wildflower, which, like many other native wildflowers, has weed somewhere in its name. Unlike cultivated flowers, many of our native wildflowers have names that don't really do justice to their beauty. And this is because their ecological value is underappreciated. And also land stewards and gardeners often don't use native plants for landscaping because they usually want big showy flowers. And most of the time, native wildflowers don't have big showy flowers, but sometimes they do. If more landowners used native wildflowers in their home gardens, it would be beneficial to many species of insects and birds and butterflies and other wildlife. Here's my first observation of azure bluets, which are a small but gorgeous little wildflower which prefers sunny patches next to the trail or in rocky places where there's less tree cover. And also seen in this photograph is Pennsylvania sedge, which is a grass-like plant of the North American woodlands, which can form beautiful lawn-like expanses along the trail and under the forest canopy. In this picture at the upper right, you can see the Pennsylvania sedge flower, which looks white and spiky. Well, here's blackberry leafing out before flowering season. It grows in abundance along the trail and over the trail. It's kind of a mixed blessing. Later on in the season, it provides some beautiful flowers and then it provides tasty fruit. But it also grows across the trail and scratches your legs as you hike. And trail crews will trim it back with scythes and weed whackers to make the trail passable. Some meadow rue. I really didn't notice much of this going along the trail. Turkey tail fungus again. I include multiple observations of certain species to show their variation in form. Here's fleabane, another beautiful native wildflower with an unfortunate name. It doesn't even repel fleas. It is an early pioneer of disturbed areas and plays nice with a variety of pollinators. Here is my first observation of mountain laurel, another evergreen that photosynthesizes before the trees leaf out. It uses this energy to produce spectacular flowers later in the spring. Here's some Pennsylvania sedge along the side of the trail. Now, many hikers, including me, use trekking poles for balance and stability. And I was a little worried that these trekking poles all these hikers were using would cause erosion by the sides of the trail. But actually, it appears that the aeration caused by these hiking poles poking into the ground next to the trail is very beneficial to Pennsylvania sedge, which often lines sides of the trail. Bloodroot flowers close up at night, probably to protect themselves from late frosts. These are in the process of reopening. They're also occurring with yellow wake robin. I think maybe the wake robin gets its name because it blooms at about the same time that the robins come back. Here's bloodroot occurring with Little Sweet Betsy on the well-littered forest floor. Most of the observations I've made so far are from the high forest. It was refreshing to see this glittering field of green and yellow in this well-lit stream headwater near the low gap shelter. It's golden ragwort, which has been used as a tonic by practitioners of herbal medicine. As with other herbal remedies, it must be used judiciously as its alkaloids become toxic at too high a concentration. This is a stealth camp, which is a camp at an undeveloped site. Sometimes night caught up with me, and there were no shelters or developed tent sites nearby. Unlike a developed site, this has down wood and ample leaf litter. It is essential to tread lightly at these sites. No fire, no cutting. You want to disturb the habitat as little as possible and keep them wild. Stealth sites are quiet, peaceful, wild, and I felt very close to nature and to the night while camped at them. Here's a clump of Pennsylvania sedge with its subtle, spiky white flowers. These blood roots are still closed. And here's a very fine specimen of the blood root, showing veins within the petals. Every 3 days or so, hikers need to go into town to resupply. And the town of Hiawassee, Georgia, provides a free shuttle to and from the trail crossing at Unicoi Gap into town. The ecology of the southern Appalachian mountains is strongly shaped by rain.
There's a seeping down. Hopefully with it. Oh, there's some lightning.
An established camp. Established camps concentrate use at designated areas, which helps to keep other places in the forest undisturbed. They're sometimes near shelters and may have amenities like proximity to water, bear boxes, fire rings, and yes, privies. Down wood around these sites is scarce, having been collected by hikers to make a campfire. The ground is compacted and the forest is less rich around designated sites. Animals become habituated here, and you're more likely to be disturbed by a mouse or bear. But they are social places where, in the words of John Masefield, one may hear a merry tale from a laughing fellow rover. Some hikers elect to stay in shelters. These shelters are maintained by the Appalachian Mountain Club, and on average, they're about 8 miles apart. It is a little known fact that the southern Appalachians are home to giant sequoia. This tiny sequoia seedling has a shiny yellow flower. If you look at the caption, you will see that this observation was made on April 1st. Actually, this is an early buttercup. Its natural habitat is in dry areas with sparse vegetation, such as rocky or sandy bluffs. I have no idea why this tree is so gnarly and the other trees around it aren't. Here's an early spring patch of mayapple, which is a dominant species on the forest floor. It spreads by rhizomes, which are horizontal roots that move along the surface, just under the surface. They depend on underground fungi called mycorrhizae, which help break down organic material in the leaf litter. All parts of the plant are toxic, some even highly so, but small amounts of the fruit can be eaten when ripe. Their toxins are bioactive and have been used in traditional medicine and modern medicine alike. Alkaloids produced by mayapple are currently being studied as potential cancer treatments. This pattern occurs again and again. Many plants produce toxins that have medical benefit if used judiciously. This is Galax. It's an evergreen and only occurs in the southern Appalachian mountains. Here's a fine example of bloodroot. I included this image because it shows the bloodroot coming up through a decomposing tree trunk. Here's another example of fungus returning nutrients to the forest floor. Wind strongly shapes the environment in the southern Appalachians. On this day, the wind sounded like a turbulent sea. Any tree that's not well anchored or isn't perfectly healthy may come down in a windstorm. Wind knocks these trees down and returns their nutrients to the soil and opens holes in the canopy for light to come through. While hiking and camping, I was much more concerned about being hit by falling wood than by being harmed by a bear. A bit of trail magic. Trail magic is when volunteers come and provide some comfort food or water or anything for hikers along the way. They'll come to places where the trail crosses roads. Many people providing trail magic are hikers from previous years. I really appreciate this trail magic because I know how hard it is to get a grilled cheese sandwich as perfect and beautiful as they were able to get it for me. Here we have a large downed tree, which has opened up a hole in the canopy for the next generation of forest life to come in through. Oh, here's the North Carolina border. I'm right now working on a video to describe the plants of North Carolina and witness the transition from early spring into late spring. Well, goodbye for now, and thanks for watching.